Hello, everyone. We're about to do an Instagram live um, interview with a great bass player, Dominic Duval. Um, I'm going to add him and then we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we're getting Dominic. Here we go. Here's Dominic. Just a moment. It's always figuring this stuff out. Should be momentarily.
There we go.
How's it going?
It's going well. How about yourself, Jonah?
Good, good. Thanks for being part of this. We're getting into the interview mindset. The next 3 or 4 days, we're planning on doing like 30 or 40 interviews at least.
Oh, wow.
We're
That-
going up to Montreal. Uh,
yeah.
a lot of great musicians up there, but you know, uh, tell the viewers a little bit, you know, about your relationship with like the bass and your relationship with music. I mean, your dad is a pretty famous bass player. Talk about things.
All right. Well, most would think that my relationship with the bass started because of my father, but it actually started because of a Kit Kat bar. So,
A Kit Kat bar.
yeah, I can dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
When I was in fifth grade, it was the year we were asked to pick an instrument. It's where the musical journey starts for most in the public school. And my first choice was saxophone, and my second choice was drums. I really wanted to play saxophone or drums. At home, I was like kind of taking guitar lessons. And so I filled out my little form, submitted it, and then I got the bad news that well, those are the popular instruments, and you can't play either. So I was like, oh man, that's a real drag. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna tough it out in chorus. I'm just gonna hang out in chorus for a while. So a few weeks went by, and I was singing in the chorus. And one day I was in my fifth grade classroom, and the orchestra teacher was going around classroom to classroom recruiting musicians for the orchestra. Everyone wanted to play in band. Band was the cool thing. It was like, oh my god, I don't want to play in orchestra. Like all the cool kids play in band. Like the orchestra is not cool, right? So this 20-something-year-old teacher comes in. She sees me and she's like, "Hey, you're tall. You know, are you in band or orchestra yet?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Well, if I give you a Kit Kat bar, will you consider playing the bass?" And then I said to her, I was like, "You make it two Kit Kat bars and you have a deal." So that's actually
Yeah.
how I started playing upright bass.
I had a similar story. Actually, mine was more like girl oriented. Like all the girls are playing cello, so I wanted to play cello. I went to the teacher and no, 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 no. You're tall. You need to play bass.
Yeah.
And that's it. Uh, but like I would have thought like the same like with my son. Like I try to encourage him drums, piano, because like maybe I want to play with him one day.
Yeah,
I would
start.
have thought maybe your dad would be the same way.
Yeah, well, funny thing, well, I guess I'll say one more thing about the beginning of my bass journey because once I started playing, he started, so I brought the bass home, right? And I was practicing first couple of weeks, and he pulled me aside. We sat down in the living room, and he said, "You know, son, you don't seem to be very good. Uh, you might want to reconsider, you know, playing the bass or being in music. It's a hard life." I was 10 years old, mind you,
Mm.
and I cried like a baby. I mean, that really hurt.
Yeah.
And most kids, I rebelled, I guess, by way of sticking with the bass, and Yeah, it was funny because he used to come to the orchestra rehearsals at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he'd be standing in the back of the cafeteria, which is where we rehearsed, over this poor 25, 26-year-old teacher's back. She's like, "Who is this guy? Like, what is he doing here?" And later she found out, oh, he's a musician. He's a bassist. Oh, he plays with Cecil Taylor. Oh, wow.
I
So
mean, that's like that's always something, like with myself with the bass. Like there was a point where I was after the first year, I was almost gonna quit, and then I had this teacher who kind of inspired me, and then my grandfather saw me play my first orchestra concert about 10 days before he died. So then that was always like the motivation, like, oh, he would have wanted me to play. He was a trumpet player. But yeah, I mean, I always see you. I don't know if your bass is around, but I always see you like. That's kind of what your dad does, like this, like these fast movements, which I used to do when
there
I was
were
younger.
I got
Yeah, get it up, get your bass and
um
some stuff.
yeah, I was saying it's right here on the floor next to me. So
Yeah, yeah, pull it up if you want.
I mean, yeah.
I'm always like, I'm always watching a few of your reels and checking out like, oh, what is Dominic doing?
And why would you want to know what I'm doing?
Well, it's always like I always see well, what happens with the reels is like I'm always seeing like you doing this like thing like that, like it's like repeating, and I'm like, oh man, what is he doing?
I mean, sometimes I'm just hanging on for dear life. I mean, the cool thing
Yeah,
about reels is you can roll the camera for like a minute or two.
yeah,
And the one thing I'll say about reels is the shorter the better. That
yeah,
they
yeah.
they really, they really
I've been
seem.
doing it. Like I saw you doing it, and I started doing some, and like, I checked them out on my Facebook, for example, and like a few of the videos have a couple thousand views. Just the I guess people recognize that.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, if you want to talk about some of your concepts, like I'm the kind of person, I guess, I kind of got traumatized by Mr. Carter, if you will, because he did not like me playing up here. He's like, no, 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 you still got work to do here.
Yeah, I hear that.
And what had happened when I was younger, I used to play up here, just like improvising. I didn't care if I was out of tune or not, and people like that. Like they're like, oh, he's playing. But now, after I've studied with all these guys and I know my peers are watching, I'm like, I'm the most conservative when I'm playing the bass because I don't want them to be criticizing me what I'm doing up here.
Well, like you said in one of your previous videos, like the money notes, this is
Yep.
what you get paid for. I mean, it's like you can play upstairs all you want, but it's like at the end of the day, most people aren't going to call you because of the way you solo.
Yeah,
But
it's typically like the and when I was playing down here, I used to have Mr. Carter. He'd have me write these bass lines that stay in just this place, and he would be like, "Mr. Jonathan, there's all kinds of combinations." And thankfully, because like sometimes when I do play a blues or something, people are like, "Oh man, where'd you get that? You sound like Ron." I'm like,
yeah,
"Yeah, I studied with him." But
I took a
like your influence is probably your dad, because like I was watching some of him and like he's doing that stuff up there.
well, his most favorite bassist, which is the first jazz bassist he turned me on to, was Scott LaFaro.
Yep.
So I didn't start with Ron Carter. I didn't start with Paul Chambers. I didn't start with Ray Brown. I didn't hear those guys until I was a teenager or later. The first recording I ever heard was Sunday at the Village Vanguard.
Yep. Gloria Step. Actually, if you watch, for the viewers watching, if you watch my interview with Chuck Israels, he talks all about that period and being around. And if you watch the interview with Steve Kuhn, he also talks about being around at that time, and I mean, we're even talking about like I think he was mentioning Joan Baez and like she was around Scott LaFaro, and Scott was so such a charismatic guy that like he got any girl, and you
Oh,
know
well,
uh,
you on that that album cover with the arrival of Victor Feldman. They're all kind of like in a sailboat dressed like sailors. I always think he looks like Popeye, you know?
yeah, I mean definitely Scott LaFaro paved the way, but then like after Scott, you've got obviously Chuck Israels, and you've got um, a few other guys along that line. For myself, like Inhop, Niels Henning, Ørsted Peterson, probably, I hesitate to say this, probably the greatest bass player of all time. Like solo wise, time, everything. I was just listening today to Mulgrew Miller and Inhop.
I've never heard that stuff.
The two of them used to play together in a duo. And
Wow.
in fact, Mulgrew told me some stories, like they'd play together, and then Inhop would take some pills and not sound, and Mulgrew would know. Oh, yep, he's done the substances. But
Yeah.
my my exposure to him was like I got this record, the Danish Radio Big Band or something, and it was called Ambiance. And it's like this guy playing upright bass, sounding like an electric player, like even faster than Jaco.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And he really, I think he got his start as a teenager playing with Bud Powell, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. He played with Bud Powell. He basically played with anybody who went to Denmark. He didn't like to travel, so he stayed in Denmark, and any person that came, he was the top call bass player.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I know you don't have that much time, so if you want to play something, or I don't know how the lag is with this thing, but we could like, I could play like the walk a little bit and you solo on it or something.
Yeah, we could try it. I mean, I guess I would just want you asked about my concept or whatever.
Yeah,
So I mentioned Scott LaFaro. I mean, like I said, my father played with Cecil Taylor, so he was more on the outside side of things. You mentioned N-Hop. Lately, I've been getting into Charlie Hayden. I'm just talking about some of my
I
influences.
love Charlie Hayden. He's got
You know,
those thick
yeah,
sounds.
he's just got like,
Uh, One of my first records is actually Steel Away of Charlie Hayden and Hank Jones from like 1994, and it's like hymns.
yeah,
That was like the first record I heard as a kid.
amazing. But yeah, I would just say like any student of jazz or music, anything I do is just a collective of all my heroes. Just
Yeah.
some days I wake up and I want to emulate N-Hop. Other days I wake up I want to sound like Charlie Hayden. I mean,
Yeah.
even Ron Carter. Like I was on a gig at Smalls a couple days ago, and I used the house bass, and it is what it is, and it's not the worst house bass. And I found myself kind of like I was like, oh, this kind of has a Buster Williams vibe to it. So it's just like, you know, it is what it is. Any given day, I just love all of these wonderful musicians so much.
One of my favorite stories with Ron was like, to my good fortune, I realized Ron had like an early doctor's appointment, like 6 in the morning. He's like, he needed me to be there at 6 to
Oh,
get my lesson. So he's like, Mr. Jonathan, you're gonna have to come at 6. And I said, Mr. Carter, I'm a little nervous about bringing my bass in the rush of people.
yeah.
Oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We'll just let you use my bass. Oh my God, I get to play the bass that Ron played all these amazing tunes, uh, and I sounded like myself, not like Ron. Ron makes the bass sound like Ron.
That's the thing. A really great bassist friend of mine, to echo that sentiment. I was like, man, like, how do you get that sound? Like, what do you EQ your amp to? And he's like, man, it's nothing crazy. Like, I just set it to flat, 12 o'clock straight across. And he said it's all in your hands, which is true.
I actually used to do something. Some cats didn't know this, but when I would go to like Fat Cat and I'm playing it, and I'm kind of like, I guess at the time I'm studying with Ron, so I'm kind of like I'm supposed to represent Ron, because I got my black nylon strings. So
Oh, yeah.
what I would do with the bass amp is I would turn down um, the bass a little bit, turn up the mid and the treble a little bit, and then it sounds a little like that CTI, Ron Carter. And there's something to be said for that. Eventually, like you kind of figure out your own sound, But
For sure. I used to sit in on Renee Cruz's bass at Fat Cat, and she had those black.
yes, Renee studied with Ron, and we'd always talk about Mr. Carter. We'd talk about actually Renee and I. She was like probably the first student I knew that studied with Ron, and then I would run into David Wong taking care of business while I was up there, and then a couple of times I met him after, such a humble guy. I wanted to interview him. I was like, oh, could we talk about this and this? And he's like, no, I don't think I have anything to say. The masters speak,
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy he is,
So maybe I should hang up then.
Oh my God, this guy, he doesn't even have social media, David Wong. He doesn't have a website. He doesn't have anything. And he's the probably the busiest bass player in the world right now.
Yeah.
Vanguard, every major recording session.
For good reason.
Yes, he he has a classical background, and it shows. His intonation is spot on, and not only is he representing Ron, he's representing like the Heath brothers and what they were doing. But I know we could do like more of these type of things sometimes, but
yeah,
we'll play a blues or something and you do your thing. And
let's do that. But let's I just want to plug Katie Thoreau's podcast, because she actually got David for an interview on the Hub. So if you guys learn more.
Yeah. Up. Can you hear the sound? Yeah, let's play a blues. Like an F blues.
Let's try. You go. I wonder what the lag's like.
Yeah, I mean, I heard like a couple of times it like cut out, but we'll definitely see what happens when it records and I actually post it and we can watch it back.
Yeah,
But
we can just call it avant-garde or free jazz at that point, you know?
yeah, like let's do one more before we go. This is fun. We should do Stella by Starlight.
Yeah, we should definitely meet in person sometime too.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I might have like crossed paths with you a couple of times because I used to live in New York. I lived in New York from 2007 to 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always like half living in New York for a few more years after that because like coming to visit my son and I stay at my son's mother's house and you know.
But you're in Vermont now, right?
Yes, I'm in Vermont. I live in Winooski, Vermont, which is basically like a subsidiary of Burlington, Vermont.
Oh, cool. I can come out there, no problem.
Yeah, you should come up here. Actually, we did have a bass player up here once that really reminded me of you. You might know him. Big guy, avant-garde player. Definitely out in the same school as like your dad.
Oh, is it Damon Smith?
Yes, Damon Smith.
Yeah,
He
man.
was up. He was playing at the Lighthouse
Cool.
up here. He gave me his like record, and we're Facebook friends.
Awesome, man.
But as soon as I'm up in Montreal, like anybody watching this, plugging this, like we got the press pass. We're going to Montreal tomorrow. We're having a big time in Montreal for a while. We're gonna be we're gonna be up from tomorrow morning until like Monday midnight.
Awesome. And you said you're going to do how many interviews? 30, 40?
Something like that. We got a lot of stuff already like lined up. Plus there's performances and we have a media press pass, which means we can bring our camera in there and record some stuff. The biggest thing that I ever did there, I think, was that Wayne Shorter 80th birthday broadcast. That was amazing. John Patitucci was killing it. So was Danilo and Brian Blade. But also, like, that place is one big hang. I mean, like, what happens is, like, the place where people perform, the main, like, drag there's a big hotel, there's a shopping center, and then there's now all these big condos that they're building around it that all look down on it. So a lot of festivals happen there. Yeah, we're excited. I mean, like my interview with Dave Holland, which has 50,000 views.
Yeah.
He just happened to be there. He wasn't even performing that time. He just was walking in that hallway. Same night I got Steve Kuhn, Dave Holland shows up. I did get myself chastised a little bit because I didn't know all my stuff. Like, I hadn't done the research, but he was there. So it was like, oh. I knew him from Mo Group, so.
Yeah, man. I was checking out your YouTube channel, I think earlier today. So it's kind of cool how this worked out. That we were able to do this kind of and interview.
Yeah, I mean, like I always see you doing stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to talk to this guy. Like he's playing with Benito. I played with Benito. Oh, he's playing with Ari, you know. Ari and I had a relationship with videos for a long time. I mean, some of those Ari Honig videos I have up there close to 200,000 views, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I saw those. Very
Yep.
cool.
It was amazing to be there at that time when he was doing it. Like, I just so happened to have my gear, and I had gotten like a loan from school loan, and I just like bought all this expensive camera gear, and I was like able to pan. People were like, "How'd you get that footage?" I'm like, "Well, I just figured it out. Like, I had to buy this and this and this, you know."
It looks really good, man, and I really appreciate, what you've been doing all these years and what you've been up to. I mean, if you guys haven't checked out Jonah's YouTube, I mean
Thank you. Yeah, I
that's my
mean, like, my point is like, for my son's generation and even younger generations to have a chance to see kind of like what the scene was, because like the scene is no longer what it was
yeah,
11 years when I started. 11 years ago, there's a lot of guys around that are no longer around.
that's true.
You know.
My father is one of them. He's gone, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
you know that's hard, man. I mean, the only thing I can relate in that like some of my mentors like Alex Lane who passed like
I couldn't believe that. I knew Alex as well. He was really healthy. He's posting every day about waking up at 4
he
a.m.
had like this is actually like if anybody sees my Instagram or like my Facebook now like making all these posts about like health and improvement, that comes from Alex. He like ingrained it in me. And I guess my biggest one of my biggest regrets with Alex is like our last conversation was not the best. Like we were kind of in a screaming match with each other, you know. I'm like, only I know because like he really cared, and like I was supposed to get to New York, and I just never got to New York to be for something, and you know, uh, but like now, like, hey, Alex is in my thesis. Like he's interviewed. Like I did a documentary on him. No one else would have known that stuff. So like, you know, his wife, Kyoko, she's still in touch. You know, the same thing. I think like, but like when you talk about like the concept of death, it is all around. You know, personally myself, I lost two uncles in 1 year, and that was extremely hard. One was like a sickness, and the other one was sudden heart attack. You know, shock. And you know, even in that year, my dad had a stroke, and I was worried. And I was actually out supposed to do more interviews, and I had to fly home. You know.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I just turned 33, and
Yeah.
both my parents are already gone. So
Yeah, we're about the same age. Like I'm probably a few months older than you.
when
And
you're
Charles Gould is the same. You know.
yeah
I'm
when
February 28th.
okay, yeah, I just turned 33 on June 21st. So
Yep, and Charles is today, I think. Charles Gould.
oh,
Uh,
happy Charles.
yeah, there's a few of us guys about it, that age, you know. But yeah, let's do this, Stella. Thanks so much for doing this, and you know this is going to be recorded. I'm definitely going to put this up on the other platforms. But
Well,
yeah,
thanks for having me. You know,
yeah, you know, like real hip, and you look forward. You know, I have I have some obligations here with my work, but I look forward to getting to New York sometime in the next month or so.
yeah, keep me posted. It'd be great to meet in person.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man.
So like, yeah, do your thing, Stella.
Want me to play the melody?
Yeah,
I know you can't like really see. Anyways, I'm sitting, so
yeah. I actually have this little tripod that is like the best money I've ever spent because it holds my iPhone, and I can actually even switch it halfway. And I actually have it right now on top of a music stand.
yeah. I didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare, so you're just on my kitchen table right now. So
Yeah, let's do it.
all right, man. Turn it off.
1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, let's do that again. All right.
mean,
That was nice.
there it is, man. It's
Yeah,
kind
I had
of
to
fun.
like. What happened for me, like with the sound and stuff, is like because I don't have my earbuds in.
Damn.
If I would listen to you play, I would get off. But if I focus on my internal clock, it worked.
Yeah, it's gonna be funny to see kind of how that came out, but I'm having a blast with you, and I'm just
Yeah.
here. And my kid,
Like we should start this kind of thing. Like we should have like a bassist hang. We'd have like a bunch of bassists just call in on Instagram and like do ideas and exchanges. That would be a lot of fun.
for sure, man.
And I think that is the future. I mean, the technology is still not quite there, but when it is, that I could like jam with someone in like Japan, and the time zones are different, but we're still playing.
I mean, Dan Tepfer was working on that. I think Christian McBride was involved. Something called Jack Trip. It might not be called that anymore, but
Yeah,
there was a latency software that was really like allowing people to get pretty close to being in the same room.
yeah. I mean, the technology will be there, and in fact, like someone like Herbie Hancock was talking about this on BBC about the future and like the metaverse, and all that, and how musicians will be able to come together in that. Um, it's still not the same as being in the same room. However, maybe COVID has prompted some things like, um, I kind of feel bad. Like, so how I have my Facebook set up, I have Smalls and Mesro notifications. Anytime there's a show, it's
Same.
on my phone, but I don't always watch them. It just makes me feel connected. Oh, this person's playing. That's cool. Like, and that was so cool. Mr. Carter did a live stream with Jeffrey. Was it Jeffrey Keezer? Or
Yeah, I saw that. It was awesome.
yeah, I mean that's pretty hip. You can watch that stuff.
Yeah, it's for free on Facebook. I really
Yeah,
appreciate Spike, continuing to provide these performances on live stream for nothing. So
yeah. I mean, I actually a couple of times I talked with Spike like about some of these topics. Actually, in fact, you may or may not know I worked with Spike on his what was it, Indiegogo project to raise $65,000 for a new piano. I was the one like shooting the footage, and um, New York Times, I guess, got a hold of it, and then that worked. But like, I know what's going to need to happen is the musicians are going to need to set aside their care about getting paid all the time for live performances and have like a blanket type of thing. Because like I think the real hip thing is going to be when all the clubs come and they have a platform, and it's like Netflix, and you can turn it on and you can watch live shows of clubs anywhere in the world. And if it could be done properly, um, it would be amazing. I mean, like you could there would be like channels. One channel's like London, one channel's New York, and like you could just flip through them and check different clubs, and you know
yeah,
it'll be there. It'll happen one day.
I
Just
mean,
a
we
matter
all
of
know,
when it happens.
yeah, I mean, we all know most clubs are set up for live streaming nowadays. So
Yeah, but the problem is they either do it exclusively for themselves and they don't rebroadcast it, and like the problem is that the clubs are concerned about getting sued or having to pay money, or the artists will come in and say, oh, well, we did this and we want to get paid if it's going to be replayed. I think all those subjects are things that need to be visited, but my personal belief is like they need to put those things aside, because otherwise this music is going to be in trouble. Like if a club like Jazz Standard had set up a camera, I guarantee you they still be open. You know,
yeah,
and though like it's also like, does the country place their emphasis on the arts? Unfortunately, the United States does not. But when you go to Montreal and you see the hundreds of millions of dollars that's invested in just a jazz festival, it's awesome. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous that you're getting ready to go up there. So
Yeah, this will be my third time going as a journalist with a press pass, and then like probably overall like my sixth or seventh time.
amazing.
That's a yeah. I mean, it's probably one reason why I stayed in Vermont. It's like, oh yeah, Montreal's right there.
Yeah, it's
Like
a pretty quick ride. How
I,
long did it take to get there?
it's about an hour and 40 minutes if you're doing it right. Obviously, there was the problem with the border with testing, um, but now that everyone's got their booster and they have something called Arrive Can, and you just let them know when you're coming, it's very easy to cross the border. And you know, but like even before that, before COVID, we used to keep our passports in the car. Oh, if we ever need to get out of the country, this is our method. 40 minutes to the border.
Yeah,
For
man.
real, because like technically there are rules there. You could go to Canada and request asylum and announce your.
Doesn't sound like the worst idea sometimes.
No, but like even that border has like storied history. Apparently, Al Capone and his people used to put alcohol across that border in that border crossings.
Makes sense. I mean, just like the drug trade, with Mexico, same
Yep.
concept.
Well, this was cool. I'm definitely gonna. What I'm gonna do is I'll save this and um, I'll share it with you on your Facebook. Like, share it as much as you want.
Yeah,
Um,
of
this is
course.
cool. Like,
Hopefully, some things were said and played that will inspire anyone who comes in touch with what we just did.
yeah, like I think the playing part is my favorite because like you kind of. I was like, oh yeah, this is a big shot. I better up my game a little bit. Like when I'm doing it myself and I'm just fooling around, probably sounds stupid.
No, man, I was listening to your take down by the lake. That was cool. So
Yeah, that thing, it kind of forced me to put myself in a particular position because that area down there is very beautiful, but you don't realize that there's tents with like crack addicts and people around. So like you got to keep an eye and just kind of. A
yeah,
couple of times I was there and I'm playing and like I'm looking that way and people are like, "Why is he looking?" Um,
I
so I
hear
don't
that.
get attacked by the the tinfoil people.
Yeah. Well, stay well and be careful and have a great time up in Montreal. I
In fact, like people don't realize this. This is the first time that I'm going to Montreal that I actually have a hotel room. The
Awesome.
other times I went, yeah, it was shiesty. I stayed with a friend or I stayed in my car, or that's a problem. Having a nice hotel room you can rest in at the end of a long day, I would assume this is going to be incredibly helpful.
That sounds civilized. So
Yeah, we're going to do it.
yeah, man. Well, I look forward to keeping up with you and hearing the interviews you get while you're up there. So thank.
Definitely. And we'll have to coordinate. We'll do another one of these soon.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I'll dress it up a little bit with a little more notice next time.
Yeah, I got some work to do after this. I'm setting up my green screen and I'm going to shoot a new intro and you know.
Cool. Well, I'll be keeping an eye out. So
All right.
all right, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, you take care.
Take care.
Bye.